Hey, welcome to the Rubber Duck Dev Show. I'm Chris.
And I'm Preston.
I'm Julie.
Yeah, and today we've got Julie checking back in with us. We talked to you many months ago when you were just starting your developer career, and so we're going to catch up with you and talk about leveling up and getting all the cool experience and leveling your character and getting all the cool magic items and that kind of stuff. Wait, that's the wrong game. Anyway, we'll talk about that and have some fun. But before we do that, week in review. Preston, how was your week?
Super busy. It's kind of crazy how busy it keeps getting. Nothing really significant has happened or like a big topic to talk about. I mean, I basically did one of the big projects I did for my app is enabling customers to use SSO. So that had me fiddling around with, well, not fiddling around is the wrong term, but adjusting authentication. And whenever I adjust any code dealing with authentication, it always makes me super nervous.
Yeah.
So I'm like double checking, adding tests, even over and above what I think is important. But that always makes me nervous when I'm doing authentication related stuff. Um, Other things did some feature work for some Rails clients, doing a number of database upgrades, helping out clients there. But that's basically an eclectic mix of stuff. But this week, the most significant thing is my son is officially graduating high school this weekend,
Nice.
and so got some family coming in, so that'll be a big significant milestone, I guess you might say. So, what about you?
Well, I've got my nephew is graduating from high school this weekend, so I get to go see him graduate, which is really cool. And the big thing I discovered this week, it's been such a long time since I took a real vacation and just actually disconnected for a week. I forgot that it takes 2 weeks to catch up on emails that come in the 1 week that you're out. So I just don't understand how that time warp works, but that was my big learnings in the past couple of weeks.
You know what? A bigger. You finally what?
Finally got through my last email catch up today. So
I've heard if you actually take an extended vacation, 2 to 3 weeks, pushing 4, that actually people know they can't rely on you and you won't get emailed as much. So you actually may get less email the longer vacation you take.
so I take a week, but tell them I'm leaving for a month.
Well, you could do that.
So Julie, how was your week?
That's really funny. I sometimes purposefully go back on towards the end of the week where there's not a lot of work expected of me because I'm just coming back and they know that I need to catch up on things. And then I use that day to go through all the messages that I have to go through. But yeah, speaking of SSO, that is also something that I worked on recently for work, is adding Apple SSO, and it was such a long process for me because I don't really deal much with authentications, and then also just like a brand new, I guess, area that I had to research on and do. And yeah, it was a great learning experience. And just last week, I presented to our engineering team some of my learnings and some of the bugs that I came across and how I went and solved those things. And I think it turned out well.
Nice.
Personal wise, we're kind of dealing with a issue with our dishwasher. It had been leaking for a while, and that while could be months, it could even be years. And so unfortunately, there's possibly some damage underneath the laminate floors. The process hasn't started yet, but we're probably going to have to demo part of our kitchen just to get to wherever the water got to.
Oh, ouch. Oh, I feel that. Having gone through some fun flooding issues recently in my house. But hey, let's not call it demo. Let's call it remodel. Then it's more fun,
Yeah.
right?
I wish I could I mean, we remodeled the kitchen about 8 years ago when we first moved in here, and so we were like, could we have lived with a crappy kitchen and then remodeled it now? But yeah, we'll see. It's it's not really a state of I want to remodel because it's like pretty newish, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, the joys of home ownership, I guess. It's always a fun adventure. So, we talked to you, I guess, what was it, like September, October, something like that, when you were just starting to, sometime last year, you were just getting into your dev career. And as I recall, you were coming out of pharmacy work. Is that right?
yeah. So
Yeah.
the timeline is I was a pharmacist for a while. I guess just to recap, folks that are maybe listening who didn't see the previous one, I was a pharmacist, and then I decided I wanted to step down and be with my children. So when I had kids, I quit, stayed with them for a few years, and then during that time, I was like, what do I want to do? And then I decided to learn programming because a friend of mine said that they loved their job so much and they were a software engineer, and I wanted to figure out what they love so much about it. I can totally understand why they love their job so much, because I love just trying to figure out how to solve these problems, and it's
Mm-hmm.
fun, and sometimes problems can be challenging, and it's
Yep.
even more fun and then more rewarding when when you figure it out.
Yep.
But yeah, that I guess I got hired at Code Academy in I'm actually coming up on almost 2 years with them.
Mm.
So I think the last time we chatted, I wonder if that was when I had recently, or I was trying to get promoted to I don't remember the timeline anymore for that specific one, but
I can't either. I'm getting too old to remember timelines past last week, honestly.
true.
It's
uh,
getting, and it's all running together, especially with all the changes with COVID and working at home and all that stuff. Time just compresses.
yeah.
But
Yeah. So anyway, I can't remember when the last time we chatted, but that must have been a couple of months after I started Ruby for All
mm-hmm.
and the podcast that Andrew Mason and I co-host.
Yeah.
And yeah, I also don't really remember what we chatted about the last time I was on the show.
Well, we chatted about that, and we chatted about the kind of the things that the way that you learned dev and how to get into dev and how to start your career with it and what you were kind of going through then. So I'm kind of interested to catch up and see, how have you progressed your career? How have doing the things like Ruby for All, and I know you went on kind of the round of cons the past couple of years. You've been doing some talks there, and I know public speaking, like many of us, is not your most favoritist thing. But you've been doing it. You've been stepping out there. So how have those kind of things kind of helped progress your career? And then lastly, kind of want to touch on um, as a kind of a junior leveling up developer, how can senior developers kind of help you progress your career? What kind of things can they do, to kind of help you through that kind of stuff? So first off, how have things been going? I mean, was development everything that you were hoping it would be as a career?
I would say development was not everything I expected, because there's a lot more to development than just sitting there and coding,
Mm-hmm.
because when I was learning, that's basically all I did. I mean, aside
Right.
from the tutorials, it was a lot of coding. But at work, it's more of collaborating with other people and working with different departments. Like you have designs, you have product, you have customer support when issues arise, and uh, so there's just a lot of different aspects to coding. And I think it's been going really well because I still really much enjoy what I'm doing. And I think there's a lot of different avenues, or I don't know if I would call them avenues, but just different parts that I can always improve on. For example, there's a lot of documentation that I didn't realize I would need to do, a lot of writing out things that I worked on or updating documents internally. And so I bring up ChatGPT a lot on the podcast, but sometimes I use ChatGPT to help me craft certain things to write out just because like my own writing doesn't sound quite as nice.
Well, I mean, nothing wrong
um,
with using the tools that you've got. That's part of being a programmer, is finding the right tools for the job. You know?
Fair.
So,
And then there's a lot of collaboration. So, I mean, the collaborating will vary drastically, I'm sure, between different companies and the way people work, because there are people who prefer to work solo, and that's fine for them. And I prefer to work with other people. I think it helps keep me focused, and just I learned so much from pairing with other people.
Cool. So, what kind of, I mean, where are you kind of at in your career now? I mean, you're not an entry level dev anymore. But I would say that I don't think you would call yourself a senior dev yet. But so where do you think you are, and where are you trying to get to? Kind of specifically, what things are you interested in pursuing through the career?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I want to say that I'm forever entry level. Like I feel like I'll always be a junior. And I hear a lot of folks say the same thing. But yeah, now that I have almost 2 years behind me, I do feel like I'm able to answer questions that people have, which is great. And I think I'm also able to have a mentee for someone who's starting out, and I can help with wherever I can. Like for example, one of my mentees wanted to get into open source, and I kind of had that experience of open source, so I helped her get kind of situated and caught up so that she can make her first pull request. And I don't know if it ended up going through, but like I think one of the maintainers had approved it, so probably it's actually for Codecademy docs, which is our like um, it's a, I'm not going to try to explain it. I can't explain it very well, but we basically have docs that for folks who want to contribute to writing up a blurb about a specific concept. We have that available, and in the issues, there's always something that we are needing. And so our learners tend to pick up the issues, write a document on it, and then it lands on our page.
Nice. Well, yeah, it's I get a lot of satisfaction when I'm helping other people learn. So do you kind of feel that same thing? You enjoy being the mentor and helping people kind of put the light bulbs on?
I do, even though she did all the work and all I did was kind of guide her in certain directions. I feel like I helped her get there, and it just feels really nice. Like I helped somebody do something.
Yeah.
And it's very rewarding.
Well, I think you're honestly helping a lot more people than you know, because you do these shows and these talks. So we'll talk about that in a sec, but I want to take a quick break and just welcome chat here. Seb, how you doing? Good to see you. And the rest of chat, welcome. You are free to ask questions. We're just having a nice chat here. So, throw your questions out if you have any. So Julie, I really appreciate the fact that you stepped into putting yourself out in public with doing the Ruby for All, and you've done some talks at some cons, and that's a big step for most people to take. I mean, getting in front of a microphone is an extraordinarily intimidating thing for people. I will say, because when you came on the first time, we had some kind of pre-show chat, and we were talking about how it's kind of nerve-wracking doing this, especially like a live show and stuff. And you were telling me you were nervous, and I was telling you, yeah, so am I, and I've been doing this for years, so it doesn't matter. But I will say you seem like you're a lot more comfortable in front of a microphone now. Does it feel that way? No.
No, like I was gonna say I'm extremely nervous still. I'm every single time I record a podcast episode, that nerve's still there. It does ease a little bit, but especially when we have a guest, I feel like I tend to get even more nervous. Um, I'm blanking on the question that you asked me.
Well, I mean, has stepping up there and doing those things, how has that helped your career too?
Okay, so remember when I was saying that I like development can be very collaborative, and I actually enjoyed that increased collaboration.
Yep.
The podcast is not a solo thing. I have Andrew to help me there, and I feel like if he wasn't around, it never would have happened.
Sure.
It's not something that I would have done. And then also the talk that I did at RubyConf Mini, that was also kind of collaborated because I did the talk with Andrea Fumera, and so I don't know that I would have done a talk just by myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to, yeah. So I feel like, so the first question is no, it has not helped my nerves doing more of it. I think I am more likely to say yes, I will do the thing, versus before I might have said I'm not sure, because I remember when you had reached out the very first time, I was very hesitant, and I feel like now I'm more like, okay, I'll do it, but I will still be nervous about it. And the second question, how has it helped me? I feel like being on Ruby for All has helped me ask questions when before I don't think I would have been able to, because I'm too worried about what other people think.
Mm. So it's
And
kind of helping you
I'm
open up to asking for knowledge and engaging people more.
Yeah, and I want to say that it helped me do that in a team setting. So one-on-one, especially if I'm comfortable with the other person, it's very easy for me to ask these questions. Like, especially if I know they're not going to judge me for asking these. There are some people that if I collaborate with them and I feel like they might judge, I still might not ask the question. But if it's a very supportive environment, then I feel like I can ask my silly, there's no such thing as silly questions, but yeah, in a team setting, I'm less likely to open up and be like, hey, is something something, because I feel like now that there's more people watching or listening, and I feel like I'm better able to do that now. But also my team's very supportive, so
Well, and I think, yeah, I mean, most of the teams I've been involved in the dev community are pretty supportive. And but I completely understand that feeling of kind of being intimidated and thinking, gosh, what are they going to say about me? Or what are they going to, are they going to think I'm not good enough to be a developer, or, the imposter syndrome thing. I will say though, from a senior perspective, a really, really old senior perspective, that I actually enjoy and relish when juniors come in and ask me questions, even if they think they're simple, silly questions, because it makes me think about how I have to explain this to them. Right. And so that even makes me a better programmer, even after I've been doing this for a day or two. The, it helps me explore and explain, what I'm doing and think harder about what I'm doing. So I would say to juniors who are out there, don't be afraid to ask questions, because in most cases, if you've got a senior who's any kind of smart, they'll realize that you're helping them too, by asking those questions. So, so Seb asks, how did the podcast impact your career, which we just talked about? Do you feel like it sped it up, or rather a sacrifice in additional work you do over your regular programming? So is the
That's a good
podcast helping
question.
your career or kind of interfering with it?
I will definitely say that it's helping my career. So the being able to ask questions is one thing, but also being able to talk to some experts in the field and to other seniors has really helped me kind of understand some the concepts better. And being able to just ask openly, I don't know, a silly question on the fly, I don't know, I just feel like even if the concept that we talk about might not be completely related to what I'm doing at work currently,
Mm-hmm.
it's still relatable to development in general, and it helps me kind of see things in different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely it does take some time. However, I will say that now that we have Paul editing our podcast, I don't have to spend the time to edit it myself, and I don't do as good of a job anyways. So I really just show up, and basically I would schedule guests, but other than that, we usually just show up and we don't even prepare ahead of time. Usually just if it's an expert, then we'll ask on the fly how things go, but that's just how Andrew and I run it. Some of them are planned depending on what it is that we want to talk about, but most of the time it's just very kind of natural, like what I just want it to be like what real people are.
Yeah. So like sitting around in the coffee house chatting about dev stuff kind of thing.
Just like this.
Yeah. So and that's kind of the attitude I have too. I don't do any prep, and I tell our guests, I don't, here's the general topic, but you don't need to prep. You don't need to, just log in to Zoom at the right time, and we'll chat. Like, we didn't do any prep work for this other than I sent you a Zoom link, and scheduled the date. That's about it. Because like you said, I just like to just talk, and I think it's helpful too to kind of, with formats like this and what you're doing with Ruby for All and some of the other podcasts that are out there, that when you talk to people like this, it kind of takes that mystique away from them, especially if they're like experts in the field, and you've got these juniors saying, "Oh my gosh, I never could talk to that person. They're just like this, icon in the Ruby industry." And then you get them onto a show and talk to them, and it kind of breaks down those barriers. So I really appreciate the fact that you're doing that podcast, because not only does it help spread knowledge, but more importantly, in my mind, it helps to break down some of these barriers, and do a lot of community building, which is important. So I'm really appreciative of the fact that you're doing that. So
Thanks. And I just wanted to mention really quick that what really helped me feel even more comfortable with asking these questions is sometimes Andrew will give really good responses, and sometimes when he doesn't know the answer, he will be on the fly. Let's look it up right now and go over that. And I really appreciate that he does that.
oh, I think we just lost Preston there for a second. That's weird. All right, hold on. See if I can get this straightened back out. All right, now we're straightened back out. Okay, I'm sure he'll come back. There he is. All right.
Hi, Kristen.
I'm back.
That
I
was
don't know for
fun.
how long.
Oh, well, now you're Julie, and Julie is Kristen. So look, here, we'll fix this. The magic of live broadcasting. Hold on.
Well, now we get to see you actually moving it.
Yeah. And all right. So, tell me a little bit about, while I'm unmucking this thing. Tell me a little bit about, that was actually a good segue, you talking about him and how he's helping you be more comfortable with asking those questions. As a more junior developer, what would you say to senior developers that would help you learn better and progress your career? What kind of things can seniors do to kind of nurture you in the career?
I think the number one thing for me, and I know I've already mentioned it, but being supportive, like making it so that I'm really comfortable, able to ask those silly questions, I think really makes a huge difference. Because if I take two different seniors and one of them is, well, let's say they're both very knowledgeable and they both can answer your questions, but if one of them is more, how do I say it, if I am more comfortable with that senior, then I'll be able to ask more questions and without fear of, oh, I should know this, I should know the answer to this, and so I'm not going to ask, and then maybe 15 minutes of the pairing session go by, and if I had just asked it, the other 15 minutes would have been a lot more meaningful. But because I didn't, then I don't know, I have to spend more time afterwards to try to figure it out, and then maybe have to ask the senior outside of the pair, like, hey, what did you mean again by, anyway. So I would say number one is to somehow make the other person feel comfortable, like never using words like, oh, that's easy, because to us it's not that easy.
Yeah.
Or something like, oh yeah, you should know that, or you should this or that. Those types of language could make someone feel like less comfortable with asking. Some other things, admitting that you don't know something, or admitting when you made mistakes. I think some of the things that seniors can try to help with making the other person feel comfortable is just talking about mistakes or learnings that they kind of come through, or relating it in a way where it's like, oh, when I first started, I didn't know XYZ. And even now, I still don't know XYZ, but I can know where to look, for example. And
Yeah.
I think that would really help. I think it's also like, and we've talked about this before on the show, but having a senior and a junior, I think it's very collaborative. So it's not just like on the senior to be a certain way, but it's also up to the junior to talk to the senior about what, by the way, we don't like to use junior on the podcast anymore, because it's not we like to use the term early career dev, and so sometimes I keep switching back and forth because I forget. But the early career dev should also bring up what they, maybe what they want to talk about, or some of the things that they want to discuss, or even, this is how I learn best. For example, if I like to pair, but I get really bored easily with watching someone else drive, and I have to just sit there and listen and also watch, that might not be as helpful to me. So if I can drive and you can tell me what I need to do, and then maybe explain things, then that might be better. And then also, I really like it when seniors ask me like a recap type of question, like to make sure I understood what happened in the process. And I know some people that they might not be comfortable doing that, but especially if I'm comfortable with them, having them ask me like quiz questions helps to kind of solidify that knowledge. And I really like that. So
Cool. Yeah, Rebuilt. Hey, welcome to Stream Rebuilt. How you doing? He actually mentioned your episode where you discussed the difference between junior dev and early career dev. Junior dev is just going to be an old. I'm old dog, and that's new tricks. That's just where I'm going to be. He says, "What do you think about using pairing as a tool to accelerate your learning? I found that pairing helped me quickly become a better developer." So, what is your opinion of pairing?
I have a lot of recurring pairs on my calendar. And I feel like through that, I have been able to kind of further along in my development career more than I would have if I were to do it solo. I just feel like there's so much I can learn from the other person. And then also, what I use my pairing sessions for is to recap what I've been working on. And I found that when I try to relay what I've been working on, I found that there's gaps in knowledge of what I was working on or doing. And then I find like, oh, there's better ways of doing what I was doing. So it does take more time. I do feel that with my additional pairing sessions, I have less heads down time for work, but I think the benefits outweigh that.
Well, I think, and you brought up something that I kind of touched on earlier, which is somebody asking you questions makes you think harder about what you're doing and improve your performance. But also, I think, because I'm a huge fan of pair programming, I think it's a extraordinarily beneficial thing, and I think it has long-term benefits. One of which is, yes, it may slow you down for that particular session, but it helps you write better, more maintainable code that's more understandable. And so in the long term, you end up making up a lot more time because it doesn't take you as long to progress that product, and you learn a lot faster. So, I'm personally a huge fan of pair programming. There's a lot of management that isn't a fan of pair programming because they look at the fact that, hey, I've got 2 programmers here I'm paying and doing 1 programmer's worth of work, they think. But that's just not the case, I've found. Matthias, hey, welcome. After 15 years on technology in different roles, I'm still unknown a universe of technicians' things. The only difference is something we need to study. The new changes, not the whole thing. Hold on. I'm going to... Oh, you're from Argentina. Okay. So I'm going to see if I can parse this a little bit, because I'm Southern English, so I don't even do English well, much less anything else. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff to learn. 15 years. I've been doing this 2,500 years or something. And, it's constantly learning, everyday learning. So there's
What
never...
what he might be saying is that he's learned a whole bunch of things, but there's still a lot he doesn't know. But learning new things, this is my take on what he's able to draw parallels to help learn a new thing easier.
Mm-hmm.
So he still
True.
doesn't know everything, but the parallels. Yeah, only need to learn the new parts, not the
Right.
yeah. It's not entirely new, but I mean, and this is what I do too. I draw parallels to something that I've worked on previously. So I think that's what he might be saying.
Yeah. So, what things are you looking to do with your career in the future? What kind of learnings do you want to do, and how do you want to progress? Because there's a lot of different ways to progress in a dev career.
Yeah, at some point I can't just keep saying I want to learn as much as I can, because there's just so many things to learn.
Yeah.
That's not
And you
possible.
Here I would use my manager a lot and try to kind of help me figure out where my gaps are and what it takes to go to the next level. So definitely use your manager. I use mine. I meet with mine every week. And also it really helps if you're able to like ask silly questions to your manager as well. So like if you're comfortable with your manager. But yeah, I may have talked about 30, 60, 90-day goals previously. We now have like quarterly goals. So what I'm expected to complete each month for the quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And I just need to remember to keep looking at that document and making sure that that I follow it. But one of the items on there was to give a technical, I'm I guess it's a talk, but like a technical learning that I'm sharing the with the company. And so that was the OAuth presentation I was discussing. So yeah, for someone who needs that, right? Like I actually need something where it's like specified goals that I can complete. I think one of my goals was also because I wanted to focus more on front end this time around. One of my goals was to pick up somewhere between 1 and 3 front end tickets to make sure that I'm consistent with working on front end stuff.
Well, and I've found that as I progressed through my career, I found that especially early on, it was really hard to stay focused on, a work task or something because there's so many cool, fun things to learn, and you go off into these different rabbit holes and because, oh, that's cool, I want to learn how to do that. Now I want to learn how to do that. Now, but when you've got a job, there's sometimes you just got to stay focused and get the thing done that you're supposed to be doing. So that's a hard thing to do. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Is you kind of need that goal setting to help you stay focused so you don't get off in the rabbit holes?
Yeah, I think also when it's not like clear instructions, then you're right. I will go everywhere, and especially if there's no deadlines, if there's not a specific deadline and it's very up in the air, then it's very hard for me to buckle down and do it. So yeah, having clear, like smart, I guess they call it smart goals. And I actually went to ChatGPT and asked it how, like, what would it take to level up? Like, give me a 1 year goal setting. What can I do for each month? And then it wasn't very specific enough for me. So I was like, apply the smart. Yeah, I have fun talking to ChatGPT sometimes, but yeah, just using that and having smart goals really does help me, even though at the time before, like years before when I had to create smart goals, I was like, why am I doing this? This is so silly. But it actually really helps me a lot. So I'm really happy that my manager helps do that for me.
Rebuilt is asking a good question. Is it harder for a junior to start in the Ruby community? If so, what can we do as a community to make sure new talent has a path to success? That's something that I'm really interested in, but what's your take on that?
Is it hard? Can you read the question one more time?
Is it harder for a junior to start in the Ruby community? And if so, what can we do as a community to make sure new talent has a path to success?
I think my story might be a little different because how did I get started in the Ruby community? Because we were on Twitter. I don't know how the state of Twitter is. I haven't actually been on my personal account. I've been tweeting from the podcast account, but at the time it was really easy. I felt like the community was very welcoming. At the time, I also was doing 100 days of code, and each day I tweeted about some Ruby learning thing that I did and got a lot of people kind of chatting in my post. And so I felt like by doing that, it was easy for me to get in. I would love to know what it's like nowadays. I'm not really sure. I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, I think like one of the things that I'm really interested in, especially with this show and the coding with Chris, is the community building stuff. I'm interested in how that works and how we build community. And the conferences are a good way to do that. It gets people together, lets them get some face time. I think things like this help because we can have conversations with people in real time. And I know for me, I've gotten to meet a lot of really cool people like you and Andrew and all kinds of other guests that we've had on here, and learned a lot about the community. And I think if if we're doing things like that, you know, the people who are in the community are putting forth these opportunities for these new career folks to be involved in the community, that helps them to network into jobs much easier. So from my perspective, Rebuilt, I think the big thing is build the community up and make it accessible to and comfortable for new folks to get into is the best thing. And you know, sticking yourself out there like Julie has done to do a show and to do talks and to show people that, yeah, even though I'm nervous, I'll get up here and do it. It's not, you know, nobody's going to kill me for it. It's, my head's not going to actually explode. You know, it's, I think that's a good thing. Matthias says, as a community, we should keep that welcoming way, even if we have to answer the same question in time to time. Yeah. And, you know, it's, I have seen people who get frustrated when they have to answer the same question more than twice or something. You know, they're like, I've already told you this twice. Well, yeah, but you got to remember that while that's an easy thing for you to know, newer devs are drinking from a fire hose. They can't remember every single thing that they're told. It's that they have to get it a few times before it sinks in finally, because there's just a lot coming at them. And I think that's an important thing with community is the dev community is to keep answering those questions and keep, you know, letting people ask those questions. So how do you feel about what you're doing to help the community building?
What was it?
How do you feel about what you're doing to help the community building?
I mean, I think I'm helping. What I would like to have more of is maybe more of me being able to communicate with people who want that. Like if I could chat more with my listeners, which I'm very thankful for, of having listeners. So I remember when I first started this, I told Andrew, if we don't have any listeners, at least you're helping one person, which was me. So hopefully that it's helping other people. But it would be great if yeah, if you are listening and you want to chat, like I'm available and happy to do so. And I'm hoping that through my efforts and your efforts with the 2 shows that you do. Do you have more? Because I feel like
Right now, the 2 is all I can handle.
But yeah, like these things that we're doing hopefully is helping with the community and making new people feel welcome.
I hope. So what's a good way to reach out to you if people do want to reach out? If your listeners want to say, "Hey, Julie, I want to talk to you." How do they do that?
I am still on Twitter at CodeWithJulie. I have been more active on the Ruby for All Twitter, so at Ruby for All. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like I need to figure out where, because Twitter has felt kind of different lately. I'm not sure where you all are if you're on social media, but if there's like if Mastodon is taken off or some other place. But
Yeah, it took me so long to get into Twitter. Then Mastodon happened, and I'm like, I just can't. I don't have the brain space to learn that too.
yeah. The whole teaching an old dog new tricks thing, like that's very relatable. Like I tried to get onto Mastodon and I went on there and then I didn't do anything with it.
Yeah. It's lucky to get me on Twitter at all doing anything there. Much less hey sire, how you doing? Definitely feels different. Ignoring what you don't want to read is not that bad. Yeah, I definitely block a lot of garbage, you know, all the political things and all that mess that I don't care about at all.
Have you noticed, like, on your Twitter feed, there's a bunch of tweets that are from people you don't even follow. Like I noticed something weird about that, and I was just like, this is such a waste of time.
I don't, because I usually look at just my feed of who I follow specifically. I don't look at the general feed. But yeah, but that's the reason, is because I don't want to sift through a bunch of stuff that I don't care about.
Yeah.
I got limited time.
Totally.
But I, getting back to the community stuff, one of the things that I've been trying to figure out how to push for, because not only do I enjoy it, but I see a lot of communal benefit in it, is trying to get more people to do live shows like this, because you have the opportunity to talk in real time with the audience and interact more and build more community. But it seems to be that, and I've offered to help people. Just reach out to me. I'll help you. I'll help you set up the stuff. I'll help you figure out the technology. I'll help you get it going. I'll come on your show and be there with you, so you don't have to do it alone, whatever you need. But there seems to be a resistance to like live broadcasting in the dev community. And I'm wondering if you have any ideas as to why that might be. Is it maybe a nerves thing? Is it a time thing? Is it a... Because I will say, hey, I've got to be here every Thursday at 3 p.m. is a bit daunting some weeks. But it seems like there would be more than just me that wants to do this kind of stuff. But I'm just kind of, yeah.
That's a good question. I wonder if it's different factors of all those things, but also if someone were to put out the effort and time to do this, would they think that people won't show up? Like, is it a fear of failure type of thing? I don't know. I know Brandon Weaver was for a while meeting weekly and going through different books, and Jason Sweat is also doing a meetup, I think weekly as well, maybe twice a week. And I'm trying to think if I would love more like live code streaming type of live streaming.
Yeah, as opposed to like talk show things like this, more actual hands-on keyboard coding,
like what
stuff.
you're doing. Yeah, like what you're doing, your other show. And yeah, I don't know what it is. I mean, I don't want to do that just because that would be more time for me personally, but I do like that. Like, I'm able to, I can't really read the chat, but I can see that there's folks that are watching right now and they can ask questions or just interact with us, and that's really cool.
Yeah. So Rebuilt says, I'm mentoring 2 devs who don't know Ruby or Rails. I've given them a few learning resources, but it feels more scattered than other languages. I've suggested the Pickaxe book in combination with the Odin project. Of the many resources available, which, there are a lot, it can be confusing. What is the best way to learn Ruby?
Are they new to programming?
Or just new to Ruby on Rails?
Yeah, I would say, I'm trying to remember all of... That's a really good question, because I kind of started from scratch and went through I went through Codecademy's course and also went through boot camp, and I think that was really helpful. But for somebody new,
I'll throw my 2 cents in. I mean, I think working on a project, either your own project that you've come up with or some project that some organization or something has given you, to say, no, I'm going to create something real. So create something real, no matter how small it is. That's personally, I think that's the best way to learn, because you can pick up all sorts of books and you can play around with them, but you're not, where the rubber meets the road is actually making something that is real, that you can put out there as open source or put out there as a little web service or something. I mean, that's my opinion of how you really learn how to do something, because you've actually created something that's real.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Yeah, I agree. I never was much of a book learner. I was more of a put my hands on the keyboard and see what I can break kind of learner. Though I
Well, I
would,
do the books. I go through the books while I'm building the thing.
yeah,
But yeah, just reading the books, yeah, it doesn't get you that far.
I will say that I do highly recommend though Wise Poignant Guide. That is a fantastic book for Ruby. So if they're very new to even programming, but Ruby in particular, that's an extraordinarily good book. Because it's actually fun to read. It's not just dry programming stuff.
Is Y, or is it W? How do you spell that?
I think it's underscore WHY. Why the Lucky Stiff? So, oh my gosh, there's a lot of chat. Okay. Sire says, forgive my ignorance, but it feels ROR is super convoluted compared to what it used to be. I looked into it when it was new, an ROR book, and I feel it's much different than it used to be, or the problem it even set out to solve. Well, it is much different than it used to be. I mean, I started back in Rails when Rails 2 had just come out, and we're on Rails 7.1 now. So yeah, it's a bit different. More convoluted. In some ways, yes. In some ways, I would say no. It's been streamlined in some areas. And the problem it's always set out to solve is web development, being a web framework for Ruby. So I think, I mean, I like it. Matthias says you need to understand first what works for you. I learn Ruby with books. For other works, better video courses. Yeah, and that's a big point that we've talked about a lot on the show. Is different people learn different ways. And Julie, when you were talking earlier about the things you needed from seniors and how they could help you kind of progress in your career, you were talking about this is how I learn. This is how I accomplish things. And I think that's a really good point, is that if you want to mentor somebody, or if you're trying to help people develop their careers, you need to understand at least the basics of how that person thinks and how they learn, because everybody's different. And so, if I was going to mentor person A, I may need to teach them one way to get maximum effectiveness for them, but that may not work at all for person B. So I need to take the time to understand those people and how they think. Rebuilt says, well, the real project is the production code they're helping out with. Yeah. So working on production code, going in the deep end is a good way to learn. Learn by doing is a great strategy for some people. Yeah. And again, depends on the person. There are people I know that love just doing the book learning. They sit down, they read the book, they absorb the book, and they don't have to spend a lot of time experimenting because they get it from the book, right? I'm not that person. I just have to go
I
break
wish I could be.
things. That's but yeah, so what kind of challenges have you had being a mentor, trying to help people learn this stuff and help them develop?
Yeah, while you were talking about how different people learn differently, I don't think I've actually taken that into consideration as I began my mentoring journey. One of my mentees actually brings the agenda to the meeting every time we meet. So she knows what she needs from me, and that works really well for me personally because I don't have to think about it too hard.
Mm-hmm.
So what I think I would like to do is also ask folks how they want, if they are to be given feedback, how would they like to receive it? because some people might, on the topic of making sure that your mentee is comfortable, some people might prefer feedback that is sugar-coated or sandwiched between nice things. And other people just want to get it right out there and don't sugarcoat it at all. And I think that knowing how they want to receive feedback might be helpful as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good point. Wow, it is already time. It's been a fun, wide-ranging conversation. We're gonna have to get you back on here in another 6 months or so and follow up on this. Chat, thank you very much for being here. Julie, thank you very much for being here. I really do enjoy talking to you, whether on the show or Twitter, whatever.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's always been a blast. 2 times now, and if I'm happy to come on again at some point, and I'll still probably be just as nervous, but
that's okay. I will too. So, next Thursday we've got Seb coming on, the Mr. Hanami Mastery himself, to talk about a follow-up on monetizing your content. We're gonna talk about specific ways to monetize. The last time we were talking about this, it was kind of a general kind of discussion, but we're going to talk about some specific things next time. So that's next week. Hopefully next Tuesday I can get back to code with Chris. I've just I think I'm all caught up from being off on vacation and got my workload under control now, but we'll see. Just keep on Twitter or Discord, and I'll let you guys know how things are going. So if you enjoyed this, please do like, subscribe, follow, depending on whether you're on YouTube or Twitch, because we're both places. We are here every Thursday at 3 p.m. with our talk show, and every Tuesday at 3 p.m. for my coding. And we try to have guests here almost every week, because otherwise it's just me and Creston talking, and we're both boring people, so nobody wants to listen to that.
Disagree.
So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that. If you did, please like and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at DuckyDevShow. Come to rubberduckdevshow.com. Sign up for our really awesome newsletter that lets you know that we've released an episode. We won't spam you, we promise, because we hate that crap. Anyway, we will see you next time. And until then, happy programming!
Happy programming.